Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video we have a very important adoption story, as you can see on this chart right here. Guys, the adoption on Bitcoin is massively accelerating, and because Bitcoin is trading sideways right now, a lot of people don't really realize just how good the fundamentals are looking on Bitcoin. That chart is going to be showing you everything you need to know, and we're going to be discussing that later on in today's video. Not only that, guys, we have a big quote out of the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, today, saying, "Blockchain and Bitcoin point to a future and point to a world where content exists forever, where it's permanent, where it doesn't go away, where it exists forever on a single node that's connected to it. The whole spirit of Bitcoin, for example, is to provide a trusted system in a distributed environment. The goal of Twitter is to ultimately be a client of this standard." Pretty bold words coming out of the mouth of CEO Jack Dorsey, a name that you are probably familiar with. Before we get to those two articles, guys, we do have some technical analysis to jump onto on Bitcoin and Ethereum. So without much further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Okay, by popular demand, I have a mouse pad. So no more of that. We got, check it out, check it out. Yeah, it sounds a lot better, doesn't it? And my clicky keyboard, if you guys still are complaining about the keyboard, I will get a different keyboard. I just really like this keyboard, okay? Look at it. It's like, I can't get it in frame because I've cable managed it. Anyway, I'm still getting used to this new set. I've got some coffee here, and that is always helpful. But, guys, let's go ahead and jump onto the chart. We're going to be pretty brief on our Bitcoin technical analysis today because there's not a whole lot to discuss. We will be getting more into Ethereum, but today I want to discuss something that's happened on the shorter term time frame for Bitcoin. As you guys may have been aware, there was a rising wedge that Bitcoin was in yesterday, and as of this morning, it has fallen below it, and we've pulled all the way back down to around $10,700. You might notice something on Bitcoin, and that is that we have more or less completely traded sideways in the last, 60 days, which makes all of the fundamental developments that we're about to talk about even more compelling because it means that we are even more bullish because of those things. If Bitcoin is able to continue driving and pushing adoption and fundamentals forward, even in light of boring charting and boring technical analysis, that is a very good sign for this space. Nevertheless, as you can see, Bitcoin did pull back yesterday, and it has now pulled below the 20 exponential moving average again. We're seeing a lot of sideways trading on Bitcoin, and we're also seeing a lot of sideways trading on Ethereum. And where we're trading sideways on Ethereum is actually very interesting, because if you know anything about the Ethereum chart, you'll know that the level that we're trading around right now, about $370, is one of the most significant levels on Ethereum's entire chart, being a major level of resistance there, support there. When we broke below it here, we pulled way back, and then right over here was an absolute high back in 2019. So needless to say, Ethereum is in a very critical position right now. And guys, I'm going to be honest with you, Ethereum is in a very strong downtrend right now. We have a very well-defined downtrending level of resistance. And on top of that, Ethereum is sitting just below the 20 daily exponential moving average. So you might look at this chart and wonder, is Ethereum about to have a big breakout? We're right below 2 and honestly 3 big levels of resistance. What happens if Ethereum breaks them? Well, guys, I'll be honest with you. If Ethereum does break those levels, yeah, we can look for a big rally to form. But I'm going to tell you why I don't think that's going to happen so soon. As you guys can see, volume has been trending downwards very, very significantly over the last several weeks on Ethereum, and it's been doing the exact same thing on Bitcoin. So the point I want to make here is that the technical analysis on Ethereum and Bitcoin is very similar. Both of these markets are trading sideways. They're both very boring. So when does that end? Because if you're anything like me, you're probably ready for Bitcoin to do something mildly interesting for a change. I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. I think Ethereum and Bitcoin are going to continue to trade sideways. They're going to continue to consolidate. They're going to continue to drop volume and retail short-term investor interest. And then, finally, when those Bollinger Bands are constricting and we're having no volatility, we're going to see a break of that. Markets are cyclical. I will say it until the cows come home, guys. Bitcoin markets will go from very volatile to very low volatility and right back. You look at the history of the chart, and that's exactly what you're going to see. Hugely volatile movements, sideways trading. Hugely volatile movements, sideways trading. Volatility, sideways. Volatility, sideways. That is simply how these markets work. And if you haven't been in them for a while, you might look at the desolation that Bitcoin is going through right now and thinking, oh my gosh, this sucks. Bitcoin's not doing anything. I'm going to leave the market because I'm bored. But before you go ahead and leave the space because you're bored, I want to encourage you not to do that with a couple of news articles. Number 1, the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, reveals his support for Bitcoin. Now, we already knew that he was a big Bitcoin proponent, but it's nice to hear confidence in the market, especially when the market is as boring as it is right now. Dorsey, who earlier this month said Bitcoin is probably the best native currency of the internet, has previously gone as far as saying Bitcoin has the potential to be the world's sole currency by 2030. Now look, if you know Jack Dorsey, you probably know Jack Dorsey because of all of the scandals that Twitter tends to get into, but just because you don't agree with him politically, and you may agree with him politically, I don't necessarily completely agree with him, it doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is, he's a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. Now, you might argue, but Twitter's unprofitable. I don't care. The fact of the matter is, he's at the helm of a ship with thousands of crew members, and with that is coming some of respect. With that comes respect from me. Let me rephrase that a little bit. This is a side note, but this is something we need to be very aware of when we're doing analysis on our markets, that just because we disagree with someone politically, as many people do disagree with Jack Dorsey and Twitter's entire platform and agenda on many things, we can't let political disagreements come in the way of us respecting how valid someone's opinion is. Does that make sense? Because just because you disagree with someone politically doesn't mean they're wrong about economics. Or just because you disagree with someone religiously or politically doesn't mean they're wrong about finances. I trust Jack Dorsey when he talks about Bitcoin because he is the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, and that is going to bring about some respect. And that's one of the things I'm very excited about with Bitcoin over the last several years, is that there's a lot of big names of people that know what they're talking about, that have access to and manage hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, giving praise to Bitcoin. If it was just a bunch of us trolls on the internet talking about how great Bitcoin was, it'd be one thing. But when you have people that have decades of experience in business, working in markets and economies, that's a pretty good sign. And it's very helpful for us if we ever feel like we shouldn't trust Bitcoin, or we should leave, or we should just head for the hills. If people that are much smarter than I am are saying that Bitcoin is a good investment, I'm going to listen to them. With that said, as I always say, and as I always quote my father as saying, you don't want to let someone else do your thinking for you. So just because Jack Dorsey says that Bitcoin might be the sole currency of the future does not mean that it's necessarily going to happen, because there are people that are just as respectable as him that say the exact opposite. So on top of looking at what influential and important and smart people might say, we also need to look at what the technicals say and the fundamentals say and make sure we're doing our own thinking for ourselves. And that's where this second article comes in. Unique cryptocurrency users grow 189% in the last 2 years. Lower bound estimates of the total crypto assets, users, and accounts. As you guys can see, this says in 2016 there were 45 million accounts and 5 million unique users in cryptocurrency, jumping to 139 million total number of accounts and 35 million unique users in 2018. And now in Q3 of 2020, 191 million unique accounts and 100 million unique users. So in 4 years alone, we've increased the number of unique users that have at one time used Bitcoin by a factor of 20. This is why I encourage you guys to make sure you're looking at the long-term perspective, because it's very easy for us to zoom in, look at the technical, say Bitcoin's trading sideways for the last 60 days, Bitcoin is doing XYZ 1, 2, and the third, and we don't care about the long term, and then miss the forest for the trees. Because guys, being in Bitcoin is not all about trading. As much as I love trading, and as much as that is the most profitable way to make money in Bitcoin when you're good at it and if you have experience, investing and the future of this entire industry is just as, if not more important. And the fundamentals are the things that we need to keep in mind so that we understand where that is going. And based on this fundamental metric and dozens of other ones that we've talked about in this video, the future for Bitcoin looks very, very bright. Whether it turns into some form of digital gold and a store of value and an investment, or whether or not it turns into a global currency, whichever side of the argument and whichever side of the aisle you're on about that issue, the fact is Bitcoin is growing, and that's indisputable, and that's very good news for us here in the cryptocurrency space. Guys, a lot of people don't realize this, and I've used this example a few times on the channel. Take a wild guess, pause the video after I say this, and take a wild guess. How long before the first nodes on the internet went live to, let's say, 1994, when the internet was just starting to pick up and people were doing all these things back in the 90s saying, what's the internet? Let me tell you, I'll come on this talk show and show you what the internet is. How many years do you think it was before the first internet connections went online until 1994 when that started happening? Take a wild guess. Well, if you go back in history and you study something called ARPANET, which had 3 connections, 3 nodes, 3 computers, this is back when computers were like huge, ARPANET launched in 1969. So the time between the Genesis block, if you want to call it that on the internet, to when the internet reached mass adoption and everybody knew what it was and everybody started using it was 25 years. Bitcoin launched 11 years ago. If we were on pace with something as revolutionary as the internet, we could still reasonably be 14 years out from any sort of mass adoption. So have patience, have faith in the process, and if you trust Bitcoin, prove it. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that in the comment section down below. Guys, I think this office is coming along great. We got some great advice from some people in the comment section yesterday who have audio and visual and lighting expertise. One person told me this Aperture 120D is too hot, so I went ahead and turned it down a little bit. Taylor's going to hate me because she's trying to color correct this and I'm messing with the lighting. If it's still too hot, let me know. I think it looks a lot better now. I'm not really sure. And by the way, this camera over here is getting a new lens coming in today, so this camera's going to look even better in a little while. Guys, we are working on an office tour, and we're trying to have that out by Sunday, so get hyped for that. I'm really excited to finally show you guys where we're working, because I'm just so incredibly proud of the team that we have. I've said it so many times, but I'm going to keep saying it because I just love bragging on people that are doing good, and because, I mean, I get all the attention because I'm on camera, but they don't, so I'm going to keep saying it. Guys, before we go, I do just want to, again, thank you for your continued support over the years. It's been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. I dreamed about having a set like this one day, and now we do, and it's a little bit surreal. Thank you guys so much. If you haven't already, hit that like button down below. It's probably gray right now. When you turn it blue, it has a tendency of making us YouTubers pretty happy about that. Yes, I totally stole that little one-liner from Carl. Shout out to the moon. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap it out for today's video. Before I go, though, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.